The Princess of Wales has not been seen in public since her abdominal surgery. But social media has been ablaze with conspiracy theories about what has really happened to her. The royal family has always been a closed book when it comes to internal matters. So today we are debating, should the royals tell us more?
We're joined by Editor-in-Chief of Majesty Magazine, Ingrid Seward, who believes the royals, well, they shouldn't come clean, and royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams, who believes they should. Richard, explain yourself, please. Good morning. Surely it's absolutely none of our beeswax.
Well, I think that this raises a fundamental question, and that is the right to privacy of the head of state, and also, of course, the future Queen. Now, if you look at the 2012 European Court of Human Rights decision against Princess Caroline of Monaco, there it was decided, and I think that this was quite relevant, that the press had a right to publish so long as they could prove it's in the public interest. Now, of course, you could argue if the head of state, where does this public interest start and how do we continue, for example? I mean, we know that King Charles, the palace spin on when he had his prostrate problem, this was tremendously helpful. It raised awareness. Now, regarding cancer, of course, this is a terribly difficult and sensitive area. But here, what do we find? We find that there's a tremendous amount of speculation. Should he, in fact, be specific? I don't think that he necessarily should be specific. But I do think that, for example, when Prince William doesn't turn up to a memorial service for his godfather, former king, when it's only 5 minutes away from where he's living, he knows that this is going to fuel speculation. We're already nervous about the king having cancer. We're already nervous also about the fact that we haven't seen Catherine since December. So it's a matter of finding a balance, and that balance seems to me to have been somewhat lost, hence the fact that this is a subject, it's a scary subject, it's very difficult, but if you look at the fact it's not going to go away, because as we look forward, it's a nightmare for royal planners. Royals are human beings, of course, but on the other hand, it's only sensible to keep us informed to a certain degree, and it is the argument about where that degree begins and ends. I'm not suggesting weekly or monthly bulletins are automatic, but I do think we should be kept more informed on the whole. You have to get this balance, and they seem to have lost it.
Ingrid, I start from the position that many people lack basic human empathy for the royal family, and you have to ask yourself, any one of you out there who's listening or watching, would you like to have your medical records splashed across the front pages of the newspapers?
Well, medical records have traditionally always been completely private, and doctors are very, very careful about that. I do agree with Richard, though, in the case of the King as our head of state, we do have a right to know about his health. I mean, I think the King, basically, a king has no private life. So what King Charles has done is he's allowed his advisors to give bulletins on his health. I think perhaps I think they've timed it quite well. We're getting them and we're seeing pictures of him. And then there's a moment where he's looking at get well cards. So that's all very positive. We know he won't be at the Commonwealth service on March the 11th. He's recorded a video message. So those that care know. We know what's going on. With Catherine, I think as a future queen, she's not queen yet. She's the Princess of Wales. And I think she has an absolute right for privacy. We've had an announcement of what's happened to her. I don't think that we need to know anymore. Of course, everyone's going to speculate, but the more we know, the more they're going to speculate. So if we had a little bit more information about her condition, we'd want to know more. So I think that a line has to be drawn somewhere, and I think the palace have kind of got it right.
Is part of the issue, Richard, because we're looking at a slimmed down monarchy now. So because there's fewer of them on the front line. It's so noticeable when one is missing.
Yes, there's no doubt that this idea of a slimmed-down monarchy, and I think that Princess Anne rubbished it relatively recently, and she was absolutely right to do so. I mean, the palace was undergoing a review of patronages, and we've yet to hear. I mean, it's impossible, really, for planners. I do think that it's tremendously difficult because in the weeks and months ahead, as we hope, trips abroad, which are very important, is our top form of soft power, the royal family trips. This is going to be difficult, and how you balance it and what people know. I mean, Ingrid is, of course, absolutely right that Catherine has a right to privacy. It's a matter, however, that if, for example, someone disappears or appears to disappear for a very long period, I do think it's a good idea, for example, sometimes a photograph, sometimes something, it needn't be an official statement. You don't, as I say, the essential thing one must realize is, of course, royals being private and also public. They have a right to a private life, but equally you get the rumour mill going over. And of course, we're in a different era now. I mean, one thinks of the historical precedents, and when George V injected with morphine so that the Times would carry the story, which was utterly bizarre, George VI not knowing that he had cancer, much less the public. And of course, the late Queen in 2021, it was a journalist who discovered she was in hospital. I think that the palace have got a much better balance, but it does seem that there is a certain hysteria, and in the era of, we're all potential paparazzi with our iPhones and online and so forth, you do have to get a balance. It's just that I feel that we should get somewhat more information.
Thank you very much, Ingrid Seward and Richard Fitzwilliams.